Well, I was really thinking this Saturday would be a subversion of what we've seen over the last roughly 3 months, where I wouldn't have to stream in my car. Um, what happened is that one of the people who I live with um, went to go and do something today, and I thought I'd have enough. I didn't know they were even going this morning, but I thought I'd have enough time to, you know, stream because it's roughly like what 2 hours, a little bit over 2 hours sometimes, and I ran an errand around because I always try to start at like 10 o'clock. I ran an errand, got back around 11. Internet was acting up outside, so I go back inside, have the room, can now speak seemingly without any interruption. I talked for about 40 minutes, having a pretty enjoyable discussion with the multiple people that have appeared on my channel before. And what do you know? They show up. They are upset and angry um, over this other person being in their room, and I just got up and left because of how loud they were. And I titled the stream the way I did because I am sorry. I'm sorry that as someone who just wants to make content, I have real life things that prevent me from being productive or inhibit my ability to do what I would like. Um, I'll never understand where, for someone who just wants to stream for like what 4 hours, 5 hours a week, you can't be expected to have a little place that you can do it in where there's no interruption, there's no disrupting, no one's messing with you. Um, and it's that's one of the rare instances where I've been rather annoyed by how a stream's turned out because when you have a conversation that's actually enjoyable, not being able to pick it back up or continue it is always obnoxious. So I'm just reminded of our crappy system. I mean, sitting here and applying for all these jobs, and then you hear nothing back, or if you do get hired, it's for like a month before they get rid of you. Um, it's just really lousy because I said before, a lot of the adults that I am around who are like slightly older, whatever, they have basically benefited thoroughly from this system, from like the dependency of me not being able to, I guess, afford my own place. So they feel like they can just come up and say whatever to you, and you do this, you do that. um, and it's all just really annoying because, like I said, I feel like the stuff I want are very basic requests, and when you're not able to get that, I think you have a right to be upset over it. Man, I tried so hard. I really did. Tried to keep the peace. The worst part is if I had started at, like, if I didn't go to the market and just started at 10 o'clock, as long as I kept into like the whole like direct 2 hours, like there was no interruptions or anything, I actually probably would have finished before. But I went to the market because nobody else goes to the market. So, it's like I get why I did. I just, I couldn't have foreseen that they would have returned as fast as they did and acted like a crazy person. That's why I said this whole like thing needs to just be over. Yeah, and Megumi, you probably weren't able to make out what they were saying. You might have been able to because they were very loud. Like I heard the thing back, and I was able to hear it even like without even like discounting the fact I was actually there. They came through the door, and the first thing they do is get mad. They yell at this other person about being in their room. Um, like I said, man, I try to be dedicated to stuff I want to do. So I don't necessarily have a problem going to another place I just get kind of annoyed by the fact that we had a decent conversation going and then it got botched thanks to this other person showing up and acting crazy and me just not wanting to put up with that. Um, so I just decided, all right, I'll get up and let this person be angry because they're always in a bad mood every single day, seemingly. Um, but I just I was so irritated. I was like, oh, the stream's going good, and I hear that little rattling of the keys. I'm like, oh my god, you know. I did hear them. Unfortunately, the other person sounded like they had a short fuse for anyone they speak to. Yes, Megumi, trust me, they are angry every single day. They are angry when someone else washes the clothes. They are angry when you get someone else. I mean, it all types of rage and all and other crap. And I actually had an interaction with them yesterday where they were mad at me, and I didn't say anything, and they responded like, I'm talking to, like, what do you want me to say? So there's a lot of just animosity over stuff that I just don't think is that big of a deal. But anger is their default emotion, just blind seething rage. They're like a gender swap version of Vegeta. I mean, it's really sad. Because like I said, there's stuff that I get upset over, but I mean, I'm not. You're not going to see me come to the door, just flaming with rage. Usually there's like some that sets it off. They came back after being gone all day to be mad that someone was in their room. I hope you understand why I don't have the highest opinion of my people I'm forced to be around. Oh my god. Oh, these stupid ads. Well, I'm probably gonna get demonetized, but whatever. I don't think I would get demonetized from playing an ad. I feel like that would be like the reverse, but whatever. I don't make anything off of here anyway, so I'm not gonna end the stream. I'm really glad I don't have to live with a person like that. They're not as bad as the one before, but they're pretty much two halves of the same coin. No, Bluetooth got me. I thought it was I was gonna just click the thing and like turn the volume down, and then I forgot that on the Bluetooth it has the audio on there as well. So that was my error. Oh man, that was a nice conversation. It just got torpedoed by some ridiculousness. But as I was saying earlier, they had this shooting over in Nashville, and one of the lines that they use is like they were mentioning the Uvalde shooting, and that was back in June of last year. They said, "Oh, the shooter was able to get in because the doors weren't locked," which was true. And I criticized the school. I was like, "Why do you have children in a building where there's no lock?" Because even like without a firearm, you could have adults that just like wander into the building, and that's very dangerous for that to like be around kids. But in the case of Nashville, the shooter blasted through the glass door to open it and like to gain entry. So it's like even when you lock it, it's still dangerous. It still is not, a surefire way to protect people or kids, I guess I should say. And I was talking about how that representative really annoyed me because their response was a non-response. They said, "We need to change people's hearts." And my daddy served in the Second World War, and he told me that if someone wants to take you out, there's not much you can do about it. It's like, so because your parent was in a war that he survived, by the way, which is already like proof that you can do something about it. You're going to sit here and be completely fine with daily mass shootings and propose nothing to actually do anything about this. I saw that. I was really shocked how they gained entry into the premises. Well, glass doors, they're really good at keeping out people with, like, regular weapons, like, a knife or something, or you try to punch through. But if you have a gun, you can, I mean, you blast through it. Um, and I'm just bringing up the Uvalde shooting because one of the main criticisms of the school was, why do you guys not have your doors locked? Basically, kind of like implying that they got what was coming to them in a way, like, they're more upset at the school for with the like unlocked doors than they are at the security guards who didn't want to protect people's children, even though that's their job, or the shooter that did this. And of course, after every shooting, they always talk about mental health. Oh, we need to do something about the way people feel. The guy talking about got to change people's hearts. But what happens? Do they propose any new measures to make therapists and psychiatrists available and prescriptions for dealing with that type? Like, no, they don't do anything. They just talk about this other issue that is important, but it's not the thing that, like, talk about a mentally ill person can't just walk up into a school and kill 3 kids in less than 10 minutes if unless they have a gun. That's like asking a person who got stabbed why they were around a person with a knife. Yeah. Akatsuki Merchant, I'm sorry that my stream got blown up by that thing. I am really sorry. I was like, yeah, it would be while I'm having an enjoyable time that happens. That does make sense. That seems to be the pattern. I like how Vince came, like he materialized after this long hiatus just to write something antagonistic. Did they ever find out the shooter's motive behind doing what they did? From what I read, he I don't want to get caught up in that. The shooter, because they're transgender, and it's like I don't even know which way to refer to them by without offending somebody. Like that's one of the reasons I don't even like discussing that group, because if you make an honest mistake, there's a segment of them that'll just get mad at you over, you know, again, like an actual error. But anyways, um, the shooter was saying that they were like, I don't know if there's a direct motive, but we know before the shooting they were saying they'd be dead by the end of the day, and they kind of like were giving their like a warning to someone that they knew, like, hey, this is it for me. Well, Magumi, my biggest issue is that, like, I don't have a problem with gay people. I don't have a problem with any members of any community when it comes to your orientation. What I have an issue with is when people are complete. Like, if I make a mistake, a genuine mistake, hey, I called this person by the wrong gender. Maybe I mistook this person for being straight, whatever. You'll have this segment of people that will ram down my throat. Oh my God, how could you do this? But then when people come on my channel, which they've done in the past, and call me racial slurs, suddenly everybody's silent. There's nothing. There are no words said. There's no call to action, no outrage, no disdain. And that's been my biggest issue with, I don't even know what's a good way to describe it. You can't have someone who people feel like in general they're allowed to say whatever they want to online, right? And then tell that person you need to be respectful and considerate of your words and actions, even though everyone around you gets to just have this free for all. I just don't see how that's fair. It's just like when the spin artist was mad at me for calling the other one, a, like, I guess a hooker or something. And I said, listen, this person has called me racial slurs. They've mocked me for not having a job. Um, you get what you gave. And just like Eddie Murphy's dad used to say, if you didn't give nice, you're not going to get nice. So, like I said, I'm all for protecting these different groups, but I don't appreciate when people just feel like they can say whatever they want to me. I did also hear how some people were comparing the incident to Sandy Hook mass shooting. I think the Uvalde one had more in common because it was like a young, like a 18, 19-year old that went up to this preschool and just killed a bunch of children for no reason other than just be evil, and then was killed himself, either by their own hand or by the um, police that were responding. I probably I'd say it has some similarities, but I think the Uvalde one had more in common, where it's just like a preschool and a like almost a dozen kids are killed, along with some teacher. Like I said, mass shootings are more American than American Pie at this point. I don't know anybody that eats American Pie, but I know a whole bunch of people that have heard about Columbine and Virginia Tech and all the rest of this stuff. And as I said before, this is something that it happens all the time. And we talked, I think it might have been that stream I did 2 Saturdays ago that got like canned over the Wi-Fi acting up. We were talking about how the these mass shootings are so common that a lot of them don't even get reported because there's so many of them that they just like don't cover them at all sometimes, or very rarely. But really, we're at a point where even the ones that made news are slowly fading away from the public consciousness. Like, I barely see anybody bring up Virginia Tech anymore. And that was the deadliest one for like, what, almost 10 years. And I barely see anybody bring up the Las Vegas one, which is still the deadliest one. So we're getting to a point now where not only are the ones that are happening barely getting mentioned, but like the big ones that were all over the news have just kind of faded away as well. Let me see here. And because of how this era has evolved, everyone is very oversensitive and are extremely touchy when it comes to that particular group. And what gets me is like, I understand because there are people that will make fun of someone for being gay, for example, right? Um, and I understand where someone can get annoyed by that, they can get irritated. But there are people who make a genuine mistake. Like they're like, hey, I thought this person was this, but they're actually that. And you'll have some who will get mad at them. And like the problem is members of that group all have varying, it's kind of like with the N-word where you have some black people that like it, are okay with other groups using it. I don't use it myself, so I just would rather no one use it. Like that's me being attempting to be fair. But it's one of those things where because every black person has a different opinion on this, anytime you use it, you risk offending some segment of them. So you might as well just not even use it. So when you accidentally call one of this group, something that they're not, and it was a genuine mistake, some of them are going to say, hey, you know what? It's fine, man. You made an error. We all make mistakes. We're all human. Others will go, you are disrespectful toward this. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where you just can't win. It's really hard to not offend people. I saw an ambulance yesterday, and it was driving over into this. So everyone stops anytime an ambulance shows up. It was driving into the lane that was on the left side of me. So like this other, it's like the way that people are going this way, but it's like driving this way. And I thought it was really weird because right after it goes through this lane where people are driving this way by driving the other way around, it then goes like cuts right into my lane to then go further down. I was like, why didn't it just go on the side of me? And me and my friend had a joke about how some ambulance drivers, you really do wonder, do they actually just get the job so they can, drive around crazy and have nobody question it? I know that is why you mentioned how if a friend of yours had their nails painted, you wouldn't say anything. It just seems, yeah, people can get, and we remember I told you about what happened at that retailer where I read the like harassment protocol, and they said that if you're a male, just an example, if you're a male and you go up to some like female coworker and you say that she should quit working there to become a model, which is you saying that she's very attractive, this is considered harassment. And I thought that was crazy because it's like if some woman came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you look so good, you should be a model," whether she's my coworker or not, I'm not going to, be offended. And I most certainly am not going to report her over that. I see she came to me, she was like, "Oh my God, you're so hideous." I was like, "Man, Jesus." But if you know what I'm saying about like for me, it's a lot harder to be sympathetic towards those types of things because words that are complimentary, um, not only don't hurt anybody, but it's like a positive reinforcement that they don't want you to give to your coworker, which I think is really crazy because if you're with this person all day long, um, you would think you would want them to feel good or know that you're on their side or you like them or want to be around them. It's just I don't know. It's just I guess my way of thinking is I can't see where it would make sense to react to positive commentary about your appearance by someone like that. I just don't get that. It doesn't make sense to me. So, like I said, there's a whole bunch of attractive women I see. Ones I've worked with, I thought were attractive, but like I don't say anything about that because I just can't run the risk. It's too dangerous. I try to. I don't know. I feel like when we're talking about self preservation, you have to always remember that that random people, whether you work with them, whether you just see them passing by, they're not your friends. And not only are they not your friends, but in many cases they're your enemy because they're going out of their way to get you in trouble over things that are not worth getting you in trouble over. Like if some person working a job said that they thought I was handsome, and at worst, like for whatever reason, I thought it made me uncomfortable, right? Like let's just pretend that that could even happen, but it made me uncomfortable. I don't think that person should have their entire livelihood destroyed because they said something to me that was complimentary that I didn't like. But again, that's just me. You see, I just think that's one of the most insane things I've ever heard. Yeah. Well, that's why I said that I have a hard time empathizing with a lot of these I guess different people because I don't understand their line of logic. I don't understand how, and like I said, there's certain remarks where I get it. Like Megumi, if I said, "I want to touch your," something like that, right? Or, you probably would look really good bending, that type of thing. I get where you can hear that and be offended, disturbed, whatever. But if you're talking about, hey, you look really nice today. Nice hair. I don't understand why that would offend anybody. So yeah, for them, complimentary words are seen as derogatory. My problem is that some people don't want to be seen as the bad guy, whole doing the most villainous, twisted things ever. Oh, while doing the most villainous, twisted things ever. Well, yeah, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to, I mean, you've even had some people where they'll defend um, different killers and be like, well, they had a bad past, and that explains why they're the way that they are. I already told you one of the biggest frustrations I have with elections over here is that we have a party, a whole party, right? They don't want to raise wages at all. They're completely fine with people making $7.25 an hour nationally, and was like 15,000 a year. But then somehow they've got a majority of the governorships. Um, they're able to like go on here and talk about they're part of the working class people's friends, and I'm like, how? What way are they friends for you? What have they done for labor? Do they support wage increases? Do they support your right to be part of a union? No, they don't. And like that's not, it's so frustrating because it's like you sit people down and you ask them, why do you believe this side works, like is doing anything remotely in favor of you? And their response is to talk trash about the other party. They're not going to tell you that theirs is bad or that theirs isn't doing as much as it should. No, the other one's bad. So it really is the lesser of two evils, where they have convinced themselves that a party that not only doesn't support wage increases or any type of union based work for them is somehow the party of workers, but that the other one is the complete embodiment of rich coastal elites, in spite of the fact that their position is more in favor of them than the one that they're members of. It's like it's crazy. Like, no, they didn't have a right to be evil. Criminals didn't have the right to commit crime. That's why crimes are illegal. What a stupid thing to say. Well, I tell you, we live in the backwards era where everything is in reverse order of how it should be. Oh man, that conversation was so good. We were talking about all the stuff with the planes and how I didn't feel comfortable going by myself somewhere again because I didn't like being on the plane for 4 hours with a bunch of strangers while having people bump my arm while I'm sitting in place. I I really, I don't know. It's like that was that part. I guess what it is that being at the airport where there's like a whole bunch of people is already kind of a little bit, I won't say nerve wracking, but it's one of those things where I feel much more comfortable if I have someone to speak to. Um, and there we go with that relationship stuff because that always finds a way to seep its. I mean, I talked about before. I do. While I don't think that men need women as far as like you must be with one or your life means that garbage. I do think that people should be around each other. Like I'm content with just being on my computer or whatever, but it's like I'm not gonna act like I don't want to speak to others or like that's the whole reason we even do the streams to talk to other people. So it's just one of those things where I always find when I think about the romance stuff how frustrating it is that like even the most simplest of like not even romantic gestures of hey, me and this other person, let's go over to this state and go and see these things and travel around and have some fun looking at stuff. Even something that really on its face or on its head is not romantic is something else that you also lack from like not having a partner where there's like no set person to do that stuff with. So I don't know, just maybe I'm sounding crazy, but that's just my position on it. Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. I don't get how so many people just don't understand the basic preference. Well, the other part of it is like that's why um I'm so frustrated with a lot of the demonizations of like single straight men where they're like you just want intercourse. Like we're talking about a person who wants to be with someone that they enjoy spending time with. Of course they're attracted to them physically, that's part of it, but it's like there's so much tangible stuff an actual fulfilling and mutually wanted relationship can do for both parties involved. And they just trivialize it and dumb it down to this, to such an absurd degree. You don't even have to be in a relationship. Just compare. Yeah, because I was offering to take my brother to Texas with me, but he's scared of planes, so he probably won't go. And I, I'm sympathetic towards him. I said, I get where being up in the air is kind of nerve wracking, especially the first time around. Because when I was in that plane, I'd never been in one before last Friday. When I was in there, and that thing started, you know, get going up in the air, I felt, a little nervous. My ears popped. I get it. I understand why he would be afraid of that. But then it's like, okay, well, if he can't do it, who else can? And then the actual issue comes to play, which is the lack of companionship. Um, and that's why I did the we can't go back stream video, because it was like, yeah, there's people that played a very significant role in your life that once they're not there anymore, you can feel it every single day. Maybe not in everything you do, but you can go, man, this person used to go with me up here. This person used to talk to me about this. It just feels really hollow afterward. That's why I said people, they just, I don't know. I was thinking of doing a video just kind of talking about like loss and how I had this one person, they tried to say, "Oh, you should go to a grief counselor," and I said, "I don't even feel comfortable discussing this with people I know. Why would I want to discuss it with some strangers?" But really, it's just, to me, it's like I feel as if there's like this false message that anyone can heal from something, and I just don't agree with it. I think that for some people there are certain individuals where if they're not in their life anymore, they do feel an absence that can't be filled by anyone or anything after that. I really don't like that suggestion. Hey, I didn't either. But you know what I'm saying, that there's like certain people where I do believe if they're not there, um, it's dismissive, and it's also an attempt to, because we all have like different ways of grieving and unique interactions with each other. Um, so it's one of those things where they don't really have anything better to say, so they just kind of feed you this generic crap about, oh, one day you'll feel better about this. Some people do their whole lives go their whole lives with trauma war veterans, for example. I'm just saying, I personally think there's some stuff you can't recover from. I know that sounds like a downer or whatever, but I believe that. I think there's some people that when they die and it hurts that first week, it never stops, or it doesn't hurt as much. You do to an extent get used to it, I guess. But you know, when you walk around and you can hear that person's voice in your head and picture them in front of you and remembering all things you did with them, it's not something that you can just discard. And it's like, it doesn't matter how many years pass, or how many months, weeks, it stays. Oh, we were talking about this earlier when I was up at 3 in the morning trying to get something to eat, and the only three things open were McDonald's, Arby's, and what's the other one? The gas station. And I went to McDonald's. I had to go into this little stupid ramp that they have, because for some reason a lot of these fast food places have these like weird positionings of like, it's just this, the way the car is supposed to go in there is not something I'm used to. But I go there and I pull up after this other person's ordered, and the I guess the cashier, the teller, whatever you want to call him, is like, my machine is down. I just took my last order today, so I had to go somewhere else. And then I went to Arby's, and the line with the drive-through line is so long that it's stretching out into the middle of the street, to where if you were like driving down the street, you'd have to move by like 2 lanes just to keep going forward. Um, and I said it would be really crazy for me to sit here for what, 20, 30, 40. No, I wouldn't even say 20, probably like 30, 40, 50 minutes to get fast food. When if it takes this long to get fast food, it's no longer fast food. So I just went and grabbed some stuff from the gas station and chewed on that. But that's one story I wanted to relay because I really didn't think about it when I came because I guess what it is that I have every week I go to the market at least twice, and I always get enough stuff to fill me up over the week. And I just wasn't used to barely having any food because you can't bring on the plane, or at least they tell you not to. So when that stuff was like unavailable, I was like, oh man, I'm hungry. I want to get something to eat. I want to wait until tomorrow. I'm starving. So I went up there and grabbed that, and that was it. But I really wouldn't have expected for a fast food place at 3 in the morning to have. It was like 6, 7, or 8 cars in the drive-through. It was awful. I said, man, I never want to go to Arby's after this. That was probably my least favorite part of that whole, like, besides the plane ride, like being in the actual area, that was my least favorite part. Simply because I just it was just driving me crazy to have to go through all that. People trying to get their late dinner slash suppers. Well, what it is that a lot of times I don't go to sleep directly at 12 o'clock, and they're 2 hours ahead, Alabama to California. So that means when it's 1 p.m. over here, it's 3 p.m. over there, and I'm sometimes I go to sleep at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning over here. So the time where I got hungry, which would be like one in the morning over there. There actually would be multiple places still open over here, but for them, everything was closed down other than some gas stations, and it's like, what do they even have in there? And remember, I don't have any forks or spoons with me, so I can't eat anything that requires a utensil. Yeah, they were trying to get those late dinners all right, and they got them after they waited in that line for 40, 50 minutes. But I wasn't going to do that, dude. I just didn't feel like sitting there until 4 in the morning. I just thought it was crazy that like you have the money to buy food and you still can't get any food because everything's closed. It kind of reminds me of that Britney Spears situation where it was like you think the more money you have, the more freedom you have, but then like her dad owned her, or so it was crazy. Pretty awkward situation, but at least you managed to get something. Well, you know what it was. I just wasn't used to like not having any food at night, to where it necessitated going out and picking something up. After that, I was good. I always had something. Time zone screwing you over too. Yeah, I'm telling you. I stayed up until 3 over there and woke up at 5, not 5. I went me going to sleep at 3 my time is 5 o'clock over there, and then I wake up and it's like 11 o'clock, almost 12. And I know that's not just a me thing because my great uncle, it was like my grandma's brother, from South Carolina. He came out here probably about 5 or 6, it was like 5 years ago, and he slept until like 3 in the afternoon. And it wasn't because he just stays up all night. He wasn't used to the time zone. It messed him up. Why would you want to sit in a long line for an hour to get fast food? People are so weirdly lazy like that. Yeah, and I just didn't have the patience for it because if I'm hungry and I really want something, just anything, like, because I've asked this before, I'll pretty much eat anything. As far as like, I don't have specific foods that I just would never like. I have favorites, stuff I really like that I'll eat over and over, but I don't have like a specific thing where I'm just like, I will not eat this. The closest to that of anything was potato salad. I hate potato salad. So it's the one thing where if you try to offer it to me, I will not eat it. And that is it. I'll eat all other types of thing damn near. Um, so that's why when I went into that gas station, I got some bags of chips, and my concern wasn't, oh my god, these are all different or these are all the same. It was, will this be enough to fill me until tomorrow morning? So I got some of those, and that was it. People are so weirdly lazy. You know, it was funny because I was talking about how I was driving back and forth from Alabama to Georgia, and this relative was like freaking out about me being on the freeway. And I said to him, the freeway from Birmingham to Atlanta is very simple. Like it's just you driving fast straight for 100 miles. It's literally an hour of just click the gas pedal and then push the brake button. I mean, I've seen freeways over here where they're like, turn this way, then turn this way, then stay this way, turn that way, stay this way, turn that way, turn that way. It was way simpler than any of the hula hoop, loop de loop crap we have over here. No, driving over there is way better than here. There's nowhere near as many cars. I felt like I was in a different world. Like I'm not. I still keep on my toes. Like I look around, make sure no cars coming, but I just felt so much more comfortable with less people. You know, like because they have roads where it's like you go left or right, and it's these long roads, and you can stop there, and there won't be a car coming for maybe another hour. Like that's how fewer people they have over there than here. It felt nice. Didn't feel as compact. No, those time zones are the worst. You'll think it's like, oh, it's 12 o'clock. Oh, it's actually 2. Because what happened was that my phone automatically adjusted to the time zone out there, but my computer didn't. So anytime I would use the computer, I would look and it would say 1 o'clock. I was like, oh, it's 3 o'clock. So that would be a little confusing. Yeah, these devices, they're always doing some strange stuff. Man, I tell you, it's been a really hard day. Got up this morning, ran my errand, tried to stream, it got blown up. At least Monday doesn't seem like it'll be as difficult. Well, Monday I have this. I think it's like there's an interview at 9 some, then another. It's like right in between when I stream usually. But like I said, I'm not too worried because I will, like, even if I don't do it immediately at 10. Usually those, when they call, they don't talk to you for that long, so I might be able to stream and then just like go into another room and talk to them for a few minutes. Probably. That woman sounded like. Man, so you did hear it, right? Where they came in and they were angry. Like you didn't like understand. I'm in the room, so that means I haven't spoken to them. The other person is like sitting out there, or whatever, and the first thing they say is he needs to get the expletive out. I'm like, oh my god. I knew when I heard that I was done. I was like, this is not sustainable. I mean, I'm not going to disagree. They were very loud after all. I was so shocked. Well, I have said before that me and my relatives are very different from each other. You'd be hard pressed to find me going into a house and immediately shouting and screaming and making all that noise. I just can't like I can't even imagine a scenario where I do that. Well, yeah, because my thought process was they're telling the other person I need to get the expletive out. Um, so I'm thinking that they're gonna like barge in here, and if that happens, then I'll definitely end the thing. Uh, so I just said, all right, well, you know what? They're in a bad mood, like they always are. I want to stream today. Let me just go to Starbucks. How do you put up with her? She sounds insufferable to be around. Well, we traded one poison for the other back in January. I really didn't know people could have like daily bad moods, but it certainly is the case. I try very hard to be productive. I mean, like I don't think that they're as bad as the other one. Like I really despise the other one, and I always have disliked them. Right from the beginning. Um, but they're not good either. So, like I said, it really what the biggest problem here is that there are extenuating circumstances relating to the difficulty of getting a job that keeps me on permanently and the high rent. I've seen some places that aren't as much, but still, you have to have some job to support yourself. And those two things cause me, prevent me from being able to be alone, um, which is why I have to keep like, having to be with someone else. Yeah, that person. They're the worst. If I never saw them again, I would have think I passed away and went to heaven. Because I even said that the spin artist is someone I have a lot in common with, and if he were not so ridiculously sticking his lips on the booty cheeks of the other one, as far as like always defending them and never being able to just like admit, yeah, they shouldn't have done this. I probably and like there's other stuff too, but like that one is so sad because there's stuff we agree on and probably would get along with well if there weren't these little things that they do that annoy me. Uh, so it's all of it just goes back to my thesis statement about how I really try to make stuff work. There's a lot of things that happen all behind the scenes where somebody gets mad at me over whatever. Um, and I've said before that one of my biggest issues with this stuff is that it's like I call it appeasement. It's like if you do something that someone wants you to do, instead of them just adhering, going, "All right, good, great, I'm glad you did this," they just move to something else. Um, so I gave the example of how, like, if I said to Megumi, "Can you cut my the grass on my lawn?" and then Megumi cuts the grass on my lawn, I'm like, "Well, Megumi, why didn't you wash your hands after doing it?" Then Megumi washed his hands after doing it. "Well, Megumi, why didn't you also trim the hedges?" Then Megumi trims the hedges. I'm like, "Well, Megumi, why didn't you park my car in the driveway for me?" And then he does that for me next. "Oh, well, Megumi, why didn't you make a copy of your key so in case I lost mine, you at a certain point, you just say, look, I know what you're doing. You're complaining constantly. If I fix one thing or do one thing you like, you complain about something else. So there's no point in trying to appeal to you." Just like we were having this conversation the Monday before last Monday, we were talking about how you had these guys that would talk about, oh, women probably don't like you because enter reason here. And how I saw this one comment somebody wrote about how men would not want to wear female clothing because it would make them, they would think women would not be attracted to them. But my thing is, if we have 60 something percent of men that are young in America not with a woman, then, and we can infer that a majority of them are wearing regular men's stuff, then what difference does it make? I would not be able to cope dealing with a person like that. They'd really try my patience. Well, I, I've tried to have my stamina. Like I said, I'm very dedicated to getting a job. I apply for stuff all the time. Not even 2 days ago, I applied for 20 positions. I've got like 3 interviews lined up this week. So, I'm trying to put up with it for as long as I can before I hopefully get some kind of leeway to actually be removed from this situation, even if I still don't fully believe it'll work out. Wait, what? What does it matter? Because majority of guys will get attention from the chicks anyway. Stupid comment. Well, one of the things we touched on a little bit, didn't go too far into it, was that because I think at one point you said something to the effect of you only live once, or like, basically you shouldn't care what other people think of what you wear because you only get to live one time. And the caveat I have for that is, I even if I don't agree with it, and I really don't agree with it because it's nobody's business, I can understand where, if I, as a man, walk up in a store or some other place wearing a skirt, a dress, pumps, I get where someone would for a moment go, like be caught off guard by that, react to it. Maybe they don't, say anything that's nasty, but it's clearly something that I get where, because it's not a commonly done thing, even the people who would hypothetically be okay with it would still react by noticing it. And my problem is that I've been around these like really image conscious people who attack me over regular male clothing, ironically enough, to where I would feel like everyone is staring at me, even if I know that they're not, which is my biggest reservation to doing it. It's not illegal. I won't get in trouble over it. Um, but it's one of those things where I understand the possible reactions that people would have, even if I would not have them myself, or would rather that they not have them. Because whether I like it or not, and I'll admit it, women wear whatever they want, men and women's clothing, but men can only wear men's clothing. That is the prevailing belief system that people have. That is the prevailing thought process that is given out. And while I've said before that I'm someone who very much has noticed the different varieties that women have, the way they speak about their stuff as being comfortable, all of this these are different factors as to why that would be an appealing thing for me. I still get why people would look at that, and it would catch them off guard, or maybe they're surprised by it, and I would feel uncomfortable having a bunch of people stare at me over something that I don't think is bad. So that was my point in my apprehension, that while it's something I could honestly say is appealing to me for the simple fact that it would allow me to have like more diversity with whatever stuff I had on, and most likely feel very comfortable as far as the stuff itself, the clothing is comfortable. I still understand where people can look at that and be taken aback. And I just don't believe at this point that I am confident enough to actively participate in something that is considered taboo, um, and that is possible to elicit strong reactions from people over things that I don't think are important personally. Because, like I said, I don't go around telling people what to wear ever. Um, but I know that I'm almost never given the same courtesy when it comes to like little respect based things I do, and it brings me no joy to admit that because I said before I like the way their stuff looks. It comes in all shapes and sizes, so this isn't a matter of like, oh, this person wouldn't be able. And really, what's so sad is that like all of the consciousness around it is based around what someone else thinks. Um, and almost none of it is based around like, oh man. But even then it's like I just don't think I have it in me to put up with whatever possible responses people have to that. I believe most people, if I'm being kind and being hopeful toward humanity, would react by saying nothing. They'd be fine. They either would be fine with their or not care too little to say, which is perfectly okay with me. But there's going to be some segment who might say something, who might keep some continuous gaze, and I just don't have it in me to put up with that at this point. Maybe someday. Maybe if I eventually feel very accomplished and even and confident to some degree of extreme, because there are people who are that way. They don't care at all anymore. Um, and I feel that way to an extent with certain other things, but I just don't have it at this point. And again, things change quickly, so maybe in a few months, next year, who knows? But it's it's just one of those things where and especially if I'm, because I said before that the people around me are not very accepting of non status quo related ideas. So, like, for example, when we talk about women the way that we do, about how this giant waste of time, blah, 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 they're going to tell you, oh, you just have to do this because they have these conventional beliefs that they don't want to see challenged or overridden by facts and evidence. So, if they were to see me in any of this like female attire, their heads would explode. And because I don't live independently from any of the ones that would do this, that means I would be expected to have to explain, justify, or have some extremely uncomfortable conversation with them about something that is not their business. And it's really lame because, like I said, I'm all up for different stuff, but I at the same time know that this is the way they would react because we've seen how ridiculous they are. It's kind of like this. If you're unemployed, they don't care. If you can't afford food to eat, they don't care. But if you wear something they don't like, here they get out their pitchforks and their protest signs and they call themselves confronting you. And their confronting of you is mainly done in ways that force you to be around them. Like I get in the car with one of them and they try arguing with me. Um, let me see. And I can honestly say I wouldn't want to put up with that nonsense over something as ridiculous as that. Yeah, and it's really agonizing, Megumi. Like sometimes I've watched videos, it'll just be like a woman speaking, right? And I notice her attire, and I'm like, man, that's because, like I said, my policy is I don't compliment any of them directly, but I'll just like think I have my own little like opinions, stuff like that. That's a really nice outfit. Probably is comfortable. I said it must feel really gratifying to just be able to put on whatever you want and not have people stare at you and look at you and make you seem like you're this extremely weird, crazy person that's mentally ill. Um, not over something you did, of course, like hitting somebody, causing bodily harm to the person. Oh, you wore something that is associated with the other gender. That would be their description, because we have a lot of bigots over here still. A lot of bigots, a lot of intolerance. So that would be a realistic concern. But yeah, so right now the biggest two things that stop me from wanting to do it are still living with someone who is very judgmental. There's no way in hell they would ever be okay with it, because they're not accepting of any lifestyle choice that is not akin to their own. They were trying to insult somebody for being atheist. And that really offended me, because I'm Catholic, but like I don't go around trying to insult people over there, because I don't care. It doesn't matter. You believe what you want to believe. It has no effect on me. It's irrelevant. But I'm just using that as an example of how I know this person would not be tolerant or accepting of me doing this. So that's why I would. And when I'm living near them or around them, I don't want to run the risk of like ever having a scenario where I have to explain to them or whatever. So that's one reason. And the other one is I still just don't feel comfortable or confident enough to do something as diametrically opposed to the status quo as openly wearing female stuff. That's still not there yet. And it definitely eats away at me, because it's just one of those things that goes back to the unfairness of it all. I said before at one point that I probably would feel more comfortable. Sometimes you go out in public and you kind of like, what's the way of putting it? You sort of you're distracted with something else. Um, I think if I were with someone else, for example, just like companionship, you another person drive somewhere, you go somewhere. Like let's say the man is wearing, let me just think of something, a skirt. If the man's talking to the woman, they're just talking and having this good, enjoyable time, and it's not even like a thing that's being referenced or mentioned at all. Odds are the guy is going to feel more comfortable, because all of his attention is being diverted to something that has nothing to do with the thing he's actually a little worried about, is what I'm getting at. So if it's like one of those things where if I had something to distract me, it probably wouldn't be as like um, nerve wracking. But if you're just like going into some building, the first thing I think is, oh, what are people going to say? That like immediately go. But if I am just my regular stuff, I don't feel that way at all. And that's why I said it all just feels like it's this big I don't want to call it distraction, but it like all of it is based around, if you do this, you're going to feel nervous and uncomfortable. And I just don't want to have that. I like what you mentioned a bit earlier about the concerns are mainly based around what other people might think or say. Yeah, because you can wear that stuff and feel completely comfortable in it. Like, and what I mean by that is like, if you're in the privacy of your own home, you put this stuff on, it doesn't like I'm talking about, like there's some stuff you don't like the way it looks on you, that even including male stuff, right? But like you put it on and you don't feel like uh you're disgusted by yourself, or is this some kind of joke or anything. No, you like it's comfortable, you like the way it looks, you like all these different colors. Yeah, I'm back at my place, Jem. I tried to stream earlier and it got blown up. um, so I hope you're all right. I'm going to be looking more into that campaign this week. I'm going to call the Secretary of State again. But what I'm saying is that when you wear this stuff and it's in the privacy of your own place, where the only person who sees you is you, and you don't feel bad, that any misgivings you have about wearing this stuff are tied to what other people will think. You don't feel uncomfortable. You don't think you're ugly. You don't think you're hideous. And it's really sad too because, um, God, what's the way of putting it? It's just societal norms showing how much they've influenced you. You know, like how much of a how much control that people still have over you. Even if you pay your own bills or you're like not dependent on them, you still feel like, oh man, somebody could see me and they might react this way. And you don't feel that way when you wear regular men's stuff, even if it's less comfortable, even if it's more restrictive. You would rather put it on because there won't be this big anticipated series of mixed reactions waiting for you when you step out that door. Well, Jim, I said earlier that I, for the most part, am the same way, but because of my empathy, I do understand where if a person sees a man wearing women's clothing, they might be tempted to either say something or be surprised by it. That I get it. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right as far as like trying to confront somebody over what they wear because we let women wear whatever they want. Nobody cares. But I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't. It's not a thing I understand. But yeah, my mind has been totally influenced by Western culture. I deviate a little bit, but I'm always still a product of it. I may think in my head, but I shut my mouth. Right, and that's you. But there are some people who are really trying. I mean, like you remember Limbaugh and like the rest of the conservative crew. There's a lot of conservatives or right leaning people, traditionalists, whatever you want to call them, who believe in the idea that um, things should stay the same way forever, and if anyone deviates from that, then there must be something wrong with them. They must have some kind of illness. I mean, like basically, because we talked about this before, back in like the 50s, 40s, 60s, American women did not wear pants that often, like hardly ever. Um, and because they've worn it now as much as men for like 40, 50 years, they can put on a pair of pants. Nobody says anything because it's just a thing we accept, expect, whatever. But I'm not saying you're conservative. I'm just giving an example. Because for so long there's been this idea that women can wear whatever they want, including men's stuff, but men have to wear men's stuff. They can't wear women's stuff. Because of that idea, you have people who are still trying to push that belief system and will react very negatively if you deviate from it. And I was saying that I just don't have the mental fortitude to put on clothing that is associated with the other gender in a public capacity and know at the same time that there's going to be some group of people who, oh, I know, yeah, we talked about that earlier, that in these other countries and previous eras, you've had, you know, I fully understand that. I'm just saying that, and I'm sure you can attest to this, because American culture is based around everything's for women and like men have less and less rights every damn year. You can expect for some people to like push back against a man wearing women's stuff, like to openly express their disagreements and to try to, well, pink had its own problems. Even we talked before about how pink used to be the color of baby boys and baby blue was color of baby girls, and like they flipped them. And but I mean, like, you know what I'm saying, of how I can wear a pink shirt and I don't feel nervous. It's like whatever. It's not really a color I wear under any circumstance, but it's like, this is because it's not something I'm really into. But you know what I'm saying, of how like the color is different from wearing a garment that people associate with the other gender. Damn, you're starting to remind me of Code Pink, that anti-war group. I haven't heard about them in a while. You have pink socks, I have a pink drink. Like I said, Megumi, am I scared of my beliefs on any of the things we've talked about? No. I could articulate this exact same belief system to people in person. But do I really feel like wearing something that openly invites people to look at me in a strange way or to be taken up? I don't. And again, I'm not happy about that because this stuff is comfortable. Um, it's stuff that I like the look of, but I just don't have the mental fortitude to to brave the storm that would probably come about for me, putting that stuff on in public. So it's not something I enjoy admitting, but it's something that it colors a lot of why I'm reluctant. Like, I'll fully admit to you, I think it's unfair. I think it's screwed up. I think no one should be able to tell you what you can or can't wear. Uh, Jim, I'm going to say this to you, and I hope you listen to me. I have been to 3 states in the last 6 days, and not a single person turned heads for me having on a jacket. So that's that. The only people that make comments about what I wear, outside of a couple of weird relatives, and I do mean a couple, it's like three of them at most, are some strange people online. When I go out in my day to day existence, no one says anything whatsoever, unless maybe it's a compliment. I did get complimented about a week ago, which did catch me off guard, but I mean, that's different from the other thing we expect. I already told you I would wear whatever I want to wear running for office because I'm tired of that damn. I already talked before about how, like, for some reason, all the women in politics, they get to like wear suits with pants and skirts and dresses, but then all the men wear that same black suit with the white shirt and the blue or red or green or yellow tie. I was like, damn, I'm not even joking about how, like, I really want to get rid of that uniform thing that we like. You know what I'm talking about? Like, even if you don't want to put on um the like regular, I'm talking about, like, you even if you want to fully participate in that gender fluidity stuff with clothing, at the very least have some variety in like what people get to, because what I'm saying, of how like all the chicks get different types of stuff, but the men have to be homogenized. I'm sick of that. Well, are you wearing that green tie because you're green with envy? You're jealous that you didn't get to go to Alabama and wait in the line at 3 in the morning for some Arby's with like 8 other cars. You didn't get to show up to the stream where everybody heard the person yelling in the background. What's crazy is that door is actually really good at suppressing sound. Like, I can put a TV on volume like 9 or 7, and you would almost be barely able to hear it. So that just shows you how loud that person was. Like, damn, they just came back and they're fired up. Now, I know Megumi's getting very bored. He got outed during that stream because I exposed the fact that he won't come to my streams unless they're shot in California. When I did 2 streams in Alabama, he was nowhere to be found. So he's been exposed. He was happy when that stream was taken down because all the evidence on him was deleted. He was revealed. So now we all know who he is. But yeah, Jim, I know you're very upset with me. You still don't have your China documentary. It's coming. I just have to sit down and write it. When I was over there, I was driving here and there, and I didn't really have any time to just like type stuff on the computer. So I know you're very upset. The rage is building up. Well, you know what it is when you go on like a trip to another state, you don't want to just sit around reading or, doing any of the stuff you could do at home. Like I didn't even bring any books with me when I went over there. What do I think of the TikTok hearings? I think it's stupid to ban a whole website. But I didn't really get to watch them. I just watched a little bit of the ones with Sanders and what was that, Howard Schultz, the Starbucks CEO. No, I'm not a fan of banning any websites. Oh, I know it's on C-SPAN. I'm just saying that I didn't really get to watch that much of it, or really have any hearings this week other than the Sanders ones. If they were on YouTube, I could put them on fast mode. Yeah, I did hear it was going to get banned at the same time. It doesn't really matter to me. Well, I don't use it either. But my thing is, there's a lot of websites I don't use that I still don't think should just be gotten rid of. Like I don't use Twitter except to thumb up other people's stuff, but I don't think the whole site should just be yanked off the internet. I haven't used Reddit in like 4 years, but I think people should be able to go there and post stuff. Our Congress is a joke. 150 million Americans. Ooh, Jem, you used a bad number. You used that sinister, sick, twisted, perverted number. You said 150 million. You didn't see the video about your hero Cedar predicting that when Williamson ends her campaign, 150 million American voters or primary voters will have never heard her name, even though she just started campaigning a few weeks ago. So of course, who the hell would know who she is at this point? But still, you use that bad number. You delete that comment. I'm not going to delete. You delete it. I want you to retract your statement using that sinister number. Dude, when I watched that video the first time and he threw out that like 100, he said 150 million primary vote, and I was like, dude, the primary doesn't even have that many voters at all. It's like what, 30,000, 40, not 30, excuse me, 40 million, 30 million. Like if you actually go and look at the 2020 Democratic primary, there's nowhere near that many people that voted. So what is he talking about? Hell, you can win the American presidency with less votes than that. Because the last election was like 81 million to 74 million. Then before that, it was like 60 million. So I was like, where are these 150 million people even coming from? Like, what is he talking about? And it, like, he didn't even say like in the election, because there are 150 million voters in that case. But in the primary, but yeah, Jam, I don't want to hear any more about. Oh, by the way, Megumi, I told you about this about this debate. It was in Arizona for the governor race. And I forgot to tell you that there was a part where the lady that ended up winning the primary, during the debate, she was like, I've been endorsed by Dinesh D'Souza. And I was just thinking to myself, like, how crazy is it that out of all the people you could cite, because endorsements really don't mean anything because people don't vote based on endorsements for the most part. Like a lot of these people, like regular voters don't even know who a lot of these people are. But it's like, isn't it crazy that, yeah, that guy isn't, but it's like the person she cites as having endorsed her, like with pride, right, is this conspiracy theorist who went to jail over being a crook, who makes stupid movies that have been debunked by people on his own side. And this one channel, they said she acted like she got endorsed by Nelson Mandela. Like if anybody went to jail, endorsed you, it'd be him, to be like, yeah, he endorsed me. Oh my God. He is the worst. He has a wife and girlfriend. I'm trying to think of somebody else that would be like when you get their endorsement, it would be like the reverse of something you should brag about. I just got endorsed by Jeffrey Dahmer. Like what? The Milwaukee Cannibal, yeah, he endorsed me. He said I do a good job in the house. Well, I'm trying to not to scare Megumi away. So, Jem, don't mention anything else about elections from this point onward. Don't say one more word. I don't want to hear anything about any congressmen or senators or presidents. So for the next 40 minutes to an hour, I don't want to hear about Washington or Adams or Jefferson or Madison or Monroe or Quincy Adams or Jackson or Van Buren or Harrison or Tyler or Polk or Taylor or Fillmore or Pierce or Buchanan or Lincoln or Johnson or Grant or Hayes or Garfield or Arthur or Cleveland or Harrison or Cleveland again or McKinley or Roosevelt or Taft or Wilson or, or Harding or Coolidge or Hoover or Roosevelt or Truman or Eisenhower or Kennedy or Johnson or Nixon or Ford or Carter or Reagan or Bush or Clinton or Bush or Obama or Trump or Biden. I don't hear none of them for the next hour. This is an apolitical stream. Can't mention any of those people. I don't want to hear one word. They're all banned. Man, I remember the first when I was in eighth summer school going into eighth grade. They had this little like trivia activity game where you had to where it was like all my classmates would stand up and have to say the presidents in order, and I would always like get eliminated very early on because I didn't know. It's like, and now it's the complete reverse. You saw that I didn't have to look at anything. I said all of them in order. You got me. That was pretty impressive. I said all in order, didn't look at anything. I did stumble a little bit because I sometimes misplace Polk and Tyler, not Tyler, Taylor rather, because I always have to remind myself that Taylor was only there for like a year, and then Polk like died right after getting out of office. No, I used to always forget like which was which. I can do the watch and read the eighth. I would only be impressed if you could do the husbands of Elizabeth Taylor. Then I would really be like, damn, he knows his stuff. I swear, out of all the women in this world, all the famous ones at least, I've never heard of someone getting married 7 times. She's the only person, only modern, and when I say modern, I'm talking like last 100 years or whatever. Who I can like person I can think of who's been married more than like 5 times. Well, we already established before being rich doesn't equal happiness. I mean, we did like I did like a whole stream just talking about different famous people that were married over and over and over. You can have all the coins in the world and it still wouldn't make you happy. I already said before that like all those guys that are talking about career success equals women, like, man, give me a break. Well, I said before, like for me, ideally, I would just have enough to like if I want to get on the plane and go somewhere, I can go somewhere. And I don't have to worry about like every month. Oh my God, how am I going to pay my rent? After that, I would be completely fine. Like I don't need. I have no desire to be a millionaire. So I probably would max out around that several 100,000 area. That's one of the reasons I had to go down to the Carter Library because when you're talking about someone who was the head of state and after they left went around building houses for homeless people and gave much of their salary to an organization that monitors elections and tries to have democracy around the world. That's someone that you ought to go fly out and pay some respect to or homage. I tell you that I used to have so many ambitions, like so much stuff I wanted to make on here, and I just kind of got suckered out of it a little bit at the end. Like just it teetered off. It's been a really irritating last couple of months, I can tell you that. But going out there was a fun deviation from the norm, just because you got to see something you really never usually get to see. Um, and I liked it. I like going to those two different states and seeing the people and how their roads were different from here, and just being around something else for once. Yeah, now a big part of me wants to do it again. I just have to figure out, because I got a lot of like job related stuff coming up this week. Just when's the next time to do it? Because I don't want to just have some like, oh, leave on Friday and then you have to come back by Sunday after. Like, to hell with that. I want to have a full week to just be somewhere else. But I think I said before that like I wish that people were able to do more stuff together. Like able to drive around the different places and like I supported the amendment to get it to where it's like work 4 days a week. Too bad we don't get to experience. Yeah, because like I would be totally up for seeing all 50 states. I'll go to well, maybe not Louisiana because of Baton Rouge and all the violence over there. But you know what I'm talking about. I'll go to pretty much any state and any city um, in the U.S. Like the only two where I'm like, maybe I don't want to go there are Louisiana, and even then, that's still mostly just Baton Rouge, and Chicago, because of how violent and dangerous it is over there. Everywhere else, I'm up for seeing. I got 15 under my belt. I'm very jealous. I can't even look at you now. You've put me to shame. I don't even have a like what a fifth of that, a third of that. Let me see, 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, I only have a fifth of it. Well, I'm sure at some point I'll be able to go to at least the ones around here, the ones I can drive to, like Arizona and Nevada and uh, Oregon. Oh, I know you are because you were speaking very highly of your hero Reagan. You showed your age because you're from the era before everyone exposed him, and I don't know, like I guess what there's like a real disconnect between me and a lot of the progressive commentators because when I was a kid, because my grandpa was like the main person I would talk about politics with. I understood it to be to where um, you know basically being around people who were like Reagan is awful like only started being a thing online. Like the only one I remember people just distinctly being like horrible, horrible, horrible was Bush. And even then, like the consensus around my area was that the older one was good, the younger one was not, which I agree with. Oh yeah, I would take him over many of the ones that have come after him, but it's still one of those things where it's interesting that in being online now, you see people like more forcefully like this person was awful. Well, yeah, but that's something that you could. I mean, it's I feel that way toward Vietnam with LBJ. It's like that wasn't a thing he started. Like you criticize him for continuing it, but it's one of those things where it's like you have to then knock off points for several other people as well. That was one of the reasons I liked Rand Paul. It's like here's a guy who's anti-war and he's against the war on drugs, and I'm like, yeah, but then he's against same-sex marriage and pushes all types of weird. I was like, oh, never mind. Oh man, I tell you, it's yeah, he's wonky like that. Well, I still think that out of that freshman group of senators that ran in 2016, like him, Cruz, and Rubio, he was the one that was probably, in terms of their positions, the most interesting. Um, because Cruz really is just a guy who says a lot of like extreme fringe right wing stuff in a somewhat smart way, but he doesn't really have like a distinct position where you're like, man, he led on that issue. Because Rand attracted a lot of attention for, I think he filibustered what was it, the CIA chief under Obama. Like there, he actually has like some pretty interesting votes. Let me see. But if he followed the libertarian principles, he would have people personal choices out his mouth. Yes. Well, look, I'm just saying that out of that group, Rand was the most interesting to me because he has a very consistent foreign policy view, which is being anti-war, and I appreciate that because it's very hard to get anti-war politicians in either party, but especially on the GOP side. Um, but yeah, with Rubio, it was the same thing where it's just like generic anti Obama is like his identity. He took down Bachman. Dude, that was a joke I told my brother that every 4 years, except 2020, there's a woman who runs for president, and there's like a bunch of hype around her, like, ooh, is she gonna win any states? And then she does like very poorly and just disappears after that. Like, um, I mean, to an extent, that was Palin, because yeah, she was the VP nominee, but in 2008, after that election, people thought she was going to run in 2012, and that didn't happen. And then Bachman ran, and people were comparing them, and they were like, "Oh, is she going to be able to beat Romney?" And then she drops out in Iowa, and now she's just on, going around saying all types of crazy stuff. Then Fiorina, the lady from that Hewlett Packard company, shows up. In the case of Haley, I'm not too sure about that, and the reason I say is because, like, Palin didn't disappear after 2008. She was around. People thought she was going to run for president, and she even ran for the House. What was that earlier? What was that last year, and got smushed? I think Haley will probably, if she doesn't try running again, because a lot of them are going to convince themselves, I only didn't win because Trump ran. That's going to be their whole, rationale. But I think she'll probably try again in 28, or I guess maybe she'll try to be senator from her state after, because Scott said he's not going to run for another term. So I think she'll find some way to still, lurk around. Because I thought Romney was going to disappear after he lost. A former governor, no, former office holder. He's like, I thought he was done, but yeah, he came back and ran for senator and won with his carpetbagger ways. Would anyone vote for that? I remember. I told you that my favorite thing was when he tried to accuse. What was I'm trying to remember which one it was. Well, we have to remember that Rick Perry only wears glasses to look smart, but it just doesn't work because people can see through the glasses. I just imagine they look at him and they look through and it's like, well, I see you. It's like, oh, you thought you tricked us, huh? Oh yeah, where he couldn't remember the greatest irony ever. He couldn't remember the energy department, and then he gets put in charge years later, of the energy department. Oh my god. I'm gonna, the sad thing is that I remember the departments because I'm into different, like, I have policies I care more about than others. Like, I don't really, uh, I wouldn't say I don't care about transportation, but it's not like, a big priority for me. So it wouldn't be something I forget, but it just wouldn't be something that immediately sticks out. But it's like, if you're talking about cutting this stuff, you should know what you're talking about. Remember, they usually prep for those debates, so it's not like he just like wandered onto the stage like it was an impromptu interview. Man, I can't stand that guy. He was a snake. He's probably going to run for president again, and if he does, I'll make sure I support whoever the other person is, or at least I really just he's the worst out of any of those candidates from that 2020 field. He was one I liked the least, because it's just like, it's so transparent that he's this guy that is trying to do this whole youthful image thing, but he's nothing. He's empty. He's a husk. I told you, at least with Biden and Klobuchar, you could say, all right, well, at least like they have like an actual record of trying to get stuff done or whatever. And I do think that in general, both of them were stronger candidates. But he's awful, man. I was so happy when Gabbard, decimated him. He was trying to smear, like, you met with Assad. It's like, I will meet with any leader of any foreign country if it means peace. That was a really good rebuttal. I've been very disappointed with her trajectory. I don't even know what happened. How do you go from being a anti-war, pro-single payer, pro-free college? Well, you know what my issue with her is that she, like, after leaving the primary, endorsed Biden and then just kind of like sat around, whatever, and then like left the Democratic Party after making all these Fox News appearances, and now endorses Republican candidates who don't agree with her on pretty much anything, if she even believes the stuff she said. So my issue with her is just the inconsistency, and like I hate to use this word, but it sounds like a grift. Her husband told her to chill. I already said that one of the theories is that she's trying to become Trump's running mate, because we know that he's trying to get a woman to be his secondary person, which I completely understand why he would do that, but I don't think he would pick her. So I'm telling you, following progressives in this stuff is like, we are like, the whole progressive space of like the political realm is the worst. All we do is argue, have a problem with each other, accuse somebody else of selling out or whatever, or smear another person as some terms we describe. I mean, it's awful, man. You can see that with Dore and Nina Turner. Like, here's a lady who not even 3 years ago, she called Dore her alter ego, said that he was someone who said the things she couldn't say, which again, it sounds complimentary, right? Then when he criticizes her response to the FBI, um, she tries to say that he's against her for her ethnicity. And it's like, this is a man who spoke up and in support of her the entire time she was running for Congress. And now she's running some channel where she's barely getting more views than I do. Even though she's way more famous. That's sad, man. Even like, all we do is just turn on each other. Oh, I don't want to hear about that snake. Warren's the biggest, saddest version of any of these people, because it's like, here's a person who, when she was elected in 2012, and I remember because I was like first starting to get into this stuff when it happened, people were excited. They thought she was the second coming of FDR. She was talking about breaking up the banks, like, and being against TPP. People, like, they wanted her to run, if you remember, in 2016, but she refused. And then she comes around 4 years later in this giant field of like 500 Democrats, and she barely stands out. Well, she has a couple of good debate performances, but then like, when her campaign starts deteriorating because all she wants to talk about is, oh, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman. What does she do? She accuses Sanders of being sexist and says that he told her in private that he didn't think a woman could win the election. Complete and utter nonsense, garbage, trash. And then after all the moderates drop out, she stays in the race to siphon off votes from him. So I said, man, just weasel, I know that was all smoke. Yeah, but it's like, it drives me crazy that we have a couple of people who agree with us, who've actually like made it to holding some office or position of power, and all they know how to do is stab each other in the back. Like, Warren really doomed herself, because even if she lost the 2020 primary, a lot of people would have been all up for her running again in either 24 or 28. So if she had just humbly dropped out after losing her home state and not had that stupid smear of Sanders, she would have had a lot more goodwill than what she has now. It's really sad, man. I'm just constantly seeing these people just let me down. And look, Jim, I don't want to speak too disparagingly of your hero AOC, because I know that's one of your favorite characters. You probably have her autographed picture signed and framed in your house. But I can't think of anything she's done in recent times that's actually substantive. I tell you, for the longest time, the only one of them I would always defend was Roe, because he was someone who came before the squad and was like actually anti-war or whatever, like had a pretty consistent record of being opposed to these foreign interventions. And then when Pelosi did her stupid trip to Taiwan, that incited the response from China's government, because it was violating their one China policy. Roe defended her. He was like, who is the Chinese president to tell her that she can't go? It's like, do you really want to start a war with the country that is our literal arch nemesis over one of our representatives going over there for no reason other than to purposely piss them off? God, man. She's lucky her plane makes it there. Or she's lucky her plane made it there. I'm just saying, Roe was the only one I would just keep defending and going, okay, well, look, he said this, but he meant, like, that was the only one where I tried as hard as I could to give him the benefit of the doubt. And really, with all these people, I try to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like when Sanders wouldn't come out against the opposite, like he wouldn't support BDS, and a lot of the people that were doing BDS were accused. They still can't find Amelia Earhart. Dude, I got her confused for a second with that lady from Fox News, Ainsley Earhart. The one that's like in the middle of the couch for Fox Morning. My favorite story with her was that she was dating Hannity, and they were both like, "No, we're not dating." But then she's like doing her show from his basement or something. The airhead. I mean, who over there on that network would you really say is like some deep, thought-provoking intellectual that just, oh man, I have to listen to him speak or her speak? Like, I know you love Ingram, but besides her, which other one? I know Ingram was your hero, and you have all of her books signed and framed, and you love Janine Pirro. Well, Wallace wasn't really, I wouldn't call him a conservative. He was just kind of like a neutral, he's like an old style commentator, you know what I mean? Because, let's not forget who his dad was. And, oh, there's few people I miss on TV, but I do miss some Wallace. Him and Cronkite, man, best journalist ever. The judge was okay. No, I know you love Janine. Every time she gets on there, she's just screaming. I really can't think of anyone they have where I'm just like, this is someone worth listening to. I need to watch them. They're saying all this intelligent stuff. She used to rubbish Obama. Dude, Dude, that network is just it's awful, man. They really should have faced some like big legal penalties for um like spreading misinformation about the election. Like I don't care how right wing of a network you are, when you have no proof and you claim something was stolen, then you're in. I don't know. I just think that was really slimy. But again, they want to adhere to their old audience, so they'll say whatever lies they can. It is propaganda. All these damn fluff pieces. Like go and watch any DeSantis interview with Fox. It is entirely propaganda. They ask him the most softball questions, and it's like, in my opinion, I don't think if like, and that's just my opinion. I don't think politicians should be asked like what music do you listen to, what movies do you like, where did you grow up. It doesn't matter. They're an elected official. Ask them about public policy. I swear, I watched a Haley interview she did on like some it might have been Fox or it was some radio station. And they were asking her about like the music shit. And she was like, "Oh, I listen to Ozzy Osbourne." Like, this has nothing to do with you wanting to run for president. Yes, policy is all that matters. I agree. But that's why I said that like I watch this stuff and you would think it was the complete reverse. These people speak in these like abstract terms that don't define anything. They're talking about um, if you were to like sit here and not. I mean, it's stupid, man. It's really stupid. Well, no, there's some interviews that are educational. Like I don't really like debates that much, particularly the ones where it's just like it's like 8 or 9 or 10 people, um, because you barely get anyone to actually. Oh, now now I remember that what magazine. See, if that was me, I would say I don't read any of them. I just go online and read the news or I watch whatever. But like I read all of them. Everybody remembered that one. I tell you, the funniest alternate reality is the one where she came and ran for president in 2012 and won. Like that would have been a complete meltdown. That you would see that, like, imagine at her inauguration, you just see like an American flag, it like in a casket and like it's half closed. It's like it's over, guys. We're done. U.S. is canceled. Go move somewhere else. Pack your bags. That would have been the end of it. But she can see Russia from her house. Like I said, the only politician from Alaska I even bother with is Murkowski. She doesn't say any of that weird stuff. She's pro-abortion, pro-gay marriage. She has some fairly interesting, not entirely like her party views, and I respect that. But the rest of them out of there, you can keep them. I think Gravel was from there. Let me look. I'm so tired of getting these stupid spam messages about my Netflix membership. I don't even use that stupid thing. Okay. Let me see here. Yep, I remember correctly. Oh, I didn't even mention. Did I mention that I went to when I was in Alabama? I went to Wallace's grave, and I actually saw somebody left some campaign buttons on his, like, right at the bottom of his stone. I was like, wow, that's actually really. Yeah, I have. I recorded myself like going up to it. I'll put that in my video. But his grave has the years he was governor on it, and then born and death. And it's really nice looking. It's on this pillar, this little like hill. Because I was wondering, like, where is it? I'm not going to sit up all day in Greenwood. But you walk up the hill, and there's him on one side and his wife on the other, or his first wife, I should say, Lorleen, the first woman to ever be governor of that state until 5 years ago when they finally had another one. And she was only governor for a year before cancer ate her up. And her husband apparently didn't tell her about it. I'm so sick of cancer, man. I hate that stupid disease more than anything else. But yeah, when I being over there, I had to go visit the most famous governor. Yeah, we have some HD pictures. We have video. So it has this little hedge part that says his name on there. This little stone, like two sides of it. He was a really interesting person. It is American history. Like, I knew from when I arrived out there, no matter where it is, I'm gonna go to Wallace's grave. I don't have to visit the grave of any other damn governor, but the most important, influential, famous one from this state, I'm going to. And I got on that freeway, drove from Birmingham to Montgomery, and I ended up in that cemetery. And I was looking for a little while, and I went on Google and found where it was. Let me see if the quality on my phone is high enough to where you would even be able to like look at it. Because then you wouldn't have to wait for the video. I can just show you on the phone. Um, Let me see here. Which day was that? Yeah, you probably can't see it too well, but it's got his like his birth year and like birth date, death date, and then the years he was governor, which I was not expecting. And in that bottom corner, you can see two campaign buttons that someone left at the bottom of there. And then there's his wife's. You said I'm brave. Why am I brave? All I did was go to a cemetery and look at a grave. No flowers. Well, my thing is, I guess what drives me crazy is usually if I'm driving directly from one place to the other, there's nowhere for me to really stop and go and pick that up. Um, I probably, because when I went to Georgia, I went to the Carter Library. I probably, if I knew where Carter's house was, would have left some. But I was worried about like the Secret Service. I don't want them to think I'm a crazy person. So I just silently paid my respects. Well, the buttons were touching to me because it's like people actually still had their memorabilia from when he ran 40, 50 years later. Wow. Yeah, some of these politicians people never forget. I mean, I told you, Ted Kennedy will go down in history as one of the most important senators ever. Like he was someone who just became senator because his brother was president, but over the next 40 something years, uh, he did more for America than a lot of its presidents did. Like I think I mentioned you before, I was in fifth grade when he died, and like that was huge. Everyone knew who he was. Even people who didn't follow politics knew Senator Kennedy. Like it was all over the place. You really would have thought a president had passed. Disgraceful history. You know, yeah, I get where you could say that, but really, there's a lot of like important things to take away from Wallace's life because one of the things that was talked about in this documentary I was watching on him was that he would talk about like the working class Americans and the common folk, and like there were a lot of people who voted for him for president because he addressed their specific concerns, and you've even had some people draw parallels between him and Trump. So he's even if I don't necessarily agree or like everything, and I don't, um, he's still someone that is worth remembering. And like I said, most famous politician from Alabama by far. Out of any of the ones held office over there, first we think of is Wallace. And easily the most important one from over there. The only one who maybe comes close, only two I should say, are Sessions because he was attorney general after being senator for 20 years. And that, still that's there's a jury out on that one because we don't even know how important he'll end up being. Um, and maybe Sparkman, that was the senator. He was the running mate for. Let me see if I can remember. If I can find it, rather. Oh, I think he was Adlai Stevenson's running mate in either the 56 or 52, like one of those two. I can't forgive. No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm just acknowledging. Just like I don't like, you know, the younger Bush, but I'm not going to pretend he's not an important American. I'm not going to pretend he wasn't significant. So if I had something that he signed, I would keep it and put it up and just for the historical value alone of of such a thing. So yeah, that's all I was getting at. That it's not. This isn't me trying to like forgive anybody or tell you you should like and shouldn't. I'm just telling you that there are certain people that did things that mattered. Mission completed. Dude, my favorite part about all this is that like the only like when Moore was running for office, they kept mentioning Wallace to like I guess bring him down or whatever, and I was like, it's kind of funny that this is the most I've seen Wallace mentioned in recent time, and it's about some guy that like it's ironic that Wallace was elected governor 4 times and Moore ran for governor like 3 times and lost. Like one actually succeeded to become head of the head of the state or chief executive of the state, and the other one failed, and one succeeded multiple times, and the other one failed multiple. You know what I mean? Like it's not like the irony of it all. No, it was really ironic. But in general, Alabama governors aren't really remarkable. Like the current lady is only significant because, again, second woman to ever be governor of the state. So it's really just like a gender thing. Not really any sweeping brand new policies. The one before that was unremarkable until he resigned after being caught using campaign money to go and meet up with his mistress and cheat on his wife. The one before that, Riley, he was talked about as a possible presidential candidate, and that went nowhere. And that's actually the one that Moore challenged and failed against competing with. So yeah, they're really not that distinguished from each other. I want our government to work for the betterment of the American people. I do too. But you can't do that when you have a government that's controlled by a bunch of corporations and the hookers that they give money to not actually do anything. And even some of the ones that aren't as corrupt, like they don't get as much money, they still are just as ridiculous as far as like, you know, I haven't looked into my congressperson's, you know, donations or whatever. I doubt they're getting Walmart and any of these other, but it's like they're still not doing anything for their constituents. They still don't raise any issues. They still basically just became a congresswoman, whatever, because of the people that endorsed them. Not a damn thing. Absolutely not. Nothing, man. Just sitting around. They just sit there. Yeah, voters definitely need to be aware. And that's why I said me running for the House is not just about, oh my God, I might get a House seat and then I can do streams in my, I don't know if you can even stream in like in your actual office, but like I could do streams. No, there's a specific set of issues that people need to know about. And the only way that's going to happen is if you have some slightly charismatic person who's running for the position who informs the public about it during their campaign. We have to expand the electorate. You got to go to schools and get younger people registered to vote. Explain to them why you think your candidacy is different. You just have to speak to certain things that I don't think most politicians talk about. I remember they asked the DNC chair, what are your what are the Democrats offering? And he said, we put hope on the ballot. I was like, oh, these nebulous terms, man, they never go away. I said, what hope? Oh yeah, Perez was awful. I wish Ellison had won. I really do. You've had the same stagnant wages, or excuse me, the same federal minimum wage for what is it, 15 years? But yeah, have hope. 725. Tell me who can live off of that. Meanwhile, in China, they are building left and right. Well, like I said before, China's government's way smarter than us. Like, I don't agree with the human rights abuses, but then again, I don't agree with our human rights abuses. They're very intelligent. Like, they're a lot of these countries that invest at home, they're going to curb stomp America very soon. They are not blanking around, not at all. They're dead serious. And I think the U.S. is afraid of them because they're seeing some of their advances, and they know that we're not moving at that same speed. Now, of course, we could if we would stop all these foreign conflicts and invest at home, but that would make too much sense. The defense contractors wouldn't like that one. And it's like nobody thinks it's weird that we just bomb and invade foreign countries. Not even just like one, like five or six. Syria, Somalia, Pakistan, Libya, Iraq. No one thinks it's weird. They want to dominate trade. I wouldn't be surprised. Look at their history. It's all about the trade. Well, yeah, that's why that trade war broke out. They've been going back and forth over it for like 5 years now. Like I said, I fully intend to make some the Silk Road. I fully intend to make some video that goes over China and the way we've reacted to them. This person is very tall. So let me because I've been here for I've technically, counting the stream that got blown up, been streaming for like almost 3 hours now. So what I'll do is we can pick this conversation back up on Monday, um, and then we can further it then. So Jem, I appreciate you showing up. I tried to stay around long enough for you to be able to write some stuff. Uh, Megumi showed up earlier. Akatsuki Merchant showed up earlier. I appreciate them as well. I know they went to sleep. Um, so have a good rest of your weekend, and I will hopefully be able to stream at home on Monday. See you.